Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special panel on the power of influence, women driving change in tech, a special partner jam edition of our SHEwolf Global Partner Network event series. I am honored today to welcome you on behalf of SHEwolf, a global partner network where we believe that the power of women-led connection, collaboration, and transformation. Our mission is to create space for women across the globe to share insights, mentor one another, and collectively lead the way in shaping a more inclusive and innovative future. Today's conversation is a powerful one. We're diving into real experiences, inner challenges, bold decisions, and courageous voices of women who are not just navigating the tech world, but also actively changing it. We'll be exploring key themes that resonate very deeply with many of us. Owning your voice in rooms where you may be the only one like you. Overcoming imposter syndrome, a struggle that too often lives behind those polished LinkedIn profiles. Navigating career growth with intention, with clarity, and with community. And most importantly, how to turn conversation into action, because visibility and voice are only the beginning. Each of our panelists today brings unique experience, expertise, and perspective, from early career pioneers to seasoned leaders, proving that influence doesn't always come with a title, but with authenticity, persistence, and a commitment to lift others as we rise. Whether you're here to learn, to share, or to simply feel seen, you're in the right place. So let's get started and get to know our incredible panelists today. I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves by sharing your name, title, the role at your company, where you're based, and how long you've been with the organization. And to make things a little more fun and give us a glimpse into your personality, let's add an icebreaker. If you could have dinner with any historical or fictional woman, who would it be and why? I'll start. So my name is Kate Fudge. I am the Director of Channel Sales for Canada at Arctic Wolf. We are a 100% channel organization. So my role is to lead an amazing team of channel managers to recruit, enable, empower, advocate for, and ultimately grow our Canadian partner sales. I'm located in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, and I've been with Arctic Wolf for 3.5 years. And for my dinner date, I've chosen Melinda Gates. Melinda has dedicated much of her life to addressing global health, gender equality, and poverty. I'd say she's arguably one of the leading philanthropists of our time. I've read her book, The Moment of Lift, and I was struck not only by her global advocacy for women and girls, but also how openly she shares her experience as a wife, as a mother, and just a woman finding her voice. She's been able to manage a very demanding career while also prioritizing her marriage, motherhood, and her faith. It's truly remarkable. So I personally would love to understand how she does that and how she navigates leadership and personal fulfillment and the challenges that come with both. So that would be my dinner date. So let's go ahead and start with Nellie.
Hi, my name is Nellie Gage. I'm the VP of Partner Marketing at Trace3. I'm based out in Orange County, California. I've been with the company for 14 years. I manage tech manufacturers nationwide and help them build go-to-market strategies within Trace3. If I were to have dinner with any historical woman, that was a very tough question, actually, because there are so many to choose from. But I have always admired Audrey Hepburn so much that I named my daughter after her. She has grace, charm, style, and she's also had a very tough childhood and was able to surpass that and make something of herself. In addition to that, she used her influence to make a positive impact in the world through her humanitarian efforts.
Amazing. Thank you. She definitely was the picture of grace, both on the screen and in those humanitarian efforts. I know she did a lot of work for UNICEF, so that's amazing. Thank you. Marianne, your turn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marian Pagano. I am Chief Executive Officer of Blackhawk Data. We are a solutions provider and managed services partner. We are an Arctic Wolf partner. I am co-founder as well. We started the business in June of 2018. So we're coming up on our 7-year anniversary shortly. we're in the New York metro area, so I decided to quit my job and start a business as a solution provider in the most congested, competitive space on the planet. So good for me. If I had to have dinner with someone, people laugh when I say it. Listen, I like Oprah Winfrey. She's probably one of my favorite people on the planet. I think it's because she's come from a tough background and she's overcome some challenges in her life. And she was able to not only build a business and a brand, but able to give back and find ways to help make her world a better place and kind of give back to people and of all different walks of life. So that would be something that I would love to do. That I'd like that to be my legacy as well one day.
Well, I would gladly accept all your Oprah gifts, Marianne.
Yes, I'm not sure if giving cars are in my future, but advice would be great. Free advice.
Thank you. Chrisanne, your turn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrisanne McDonald. I am with Charter Telecom. I've been with us for just a little, almost 2 years, and I am the cybersecurity practice lead and vCISO. So I decided to do something a little different for my dinner. I decided to pick a fictional character who is the matriarch and my favorite character on Game of Thrones, Lady Olenna of House Tyrell, the Queen of Thorns, and in my opinion, the ultimate she-wolf. So not only is she very intelligent, wise, cunning, self-confident, yet defiant, she played her own game, and I like that, that she not only played her own game, but she marches to her own drum, and she had the best one-liners of the show. Anyone that's seen that show knows that. So she prioritized herself and her own strategy and decision making and over the influence of others, and was never manipulated on the show. And in fact, she spent time as a mentor and coaching other women leaders like Daenerys in the show. And one of the things that she did say when she was talking about her listening to her advisors, so Lady Olenna said, I've known a great many clever men. I outlived them all. You know why? I ignored them. And she encouraged Daenerys to be a dragon, believe in herself, and trust her own instincts. And she even died like a she-wolf, and in fact had the mic drop one-liner of the show. Anyone who has seen it, tell Cersei I want her to know it was me, which I thought was fantastic. And so in many ways, everyone knows that grandmother that is her character, and women leaders that are very similar, I think, or parallel to her character. One would be Margaret Thatcher, kind of an iron fist, very strong woman and very strong politician. Another one, those of us who live in the Greater Toronto area, you might know of her, Kate, out of Mississauga, Mayor Hazel McCallion, who was another woman that reminds me very, very much of Lady Olenna. So I would love to have dinner with her, and I would love to know a little bit more about her origin and how she became who she is. I think that would be very fascinating. And Game of Thrones, feel free, if you're watching this, please feel free to do an origin show on Lady Olenna. I would love that. Thank you.
That's amazing. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I've never watched that show, but she sounds like a no-nonsense kind of gal, and I would love to share a bottle of wine with her. So good choice.
I kind of want to watch the show now.
Yeah, that's next. Yes. Awesome. Jamie, your turn.
Yes, my name is Jamie Martin. I work with Heartland Business Systems. I'm a senior solutions consultant. My primary role is to work with large to enterprise customers nationwide. I've been with Heartland for about 5 years now and love it. Great organization. For my dinner date, I kind of went the tech path way. I choose Ada Lovelace. She was considered the first computer programmer. And as a woman in that era who saw the future of computing before it even existed, she represented a very strong vision and resilience, qualities that, with the rest of our questions, you'll see that theme, but it also resonates with me in my career. I'd love to hear how she pushed through those boundaries in a world that didn't expect her to, how she faced challenges and doubt, and how she might view the tech world today, especially with women in technology. I think it would be a very interesting conversation.
That's an awesome choice as well. My goodness. Yeah, I'd love to hear that because it's such a, a male-dominated industry in the 19th century. So I'd like to see what she thinks about us now. It'd be great. Awesome. Amazing. Well, that's a good start, I'd say. So I will move on to our very first official question. So the question is, what are some subtle yet powerful ways to influence without being the loudest person in the room? And we will start with Nellie.
So I think it's important to obviously understand the vision and strategy yourself. Obviously, that goes without saying, but I think that along with understanding your audience and their concerns and the ability to reason with them in a logical way. I think the loudest person in the room can often have an opposite effect. In high intensity situations, the loudest person would only create more chaos. So my strategy as a leader is to lead with a velvet hammer. I think it's a way to inspire your colleagues and remain composure in high pressure situations.
Great answer. Thank you, Nellie. Marianne, how about you?
I think we've all been in those situations, right, where they're high pressured and, as a female, right, kind of get all you get all excited. So you want to come across loud. And I think one of the things that's always worked really well for me, especially in a CEO spot, is actually doing quite the opposite, right? My goal is to get my point across or help somebody else, right, that's in the room that doesn't know how to get their voice heard, right? It's really being able to help them understand, right, how to do that without being so loud. And it's being forceful, strong, confident, right? Independent, right? Coming across very strong in a room. And there's been a lot of times when we're in a room and we're negotiating a deal and I'm with some of my sales guys and stuff like that, and I'm the only female in the room. It's like, well, let me talk to your boss or somebody else who could actually help us negotiate this. I'm like, well, I don't have one. I'm the highest ranking official that you have. And I think just being so confident, which is very hard to do, is one of the things that's helped me the most. And when there's someone in the room who's trying to get their point across, typically I'll make sure that we've met ahead of time, right? So I understand, right, the room, the audience, what we're trying to accomplish, and I'll kind of coach them and help them along and just kind of give them a little tap every once in a while so that they're comfortable enough to know that someone else has their back in the room so they can stay composed and calm, like during the conversation. That's what I would suggest.
Excellent. Thank you, Marianne. How about you, Chrisanne?
Well, I don't need to be the smartest or the loudest person in the room. And in fact, most of the time, I'm usually the quietest, which with my personality, you would think that that's not, in fact, true, but it is. And in fact, I spend more time listening over talking and promoting other people's ideas. I like to make it other people's ideas. And quite often in conversations, I will throw softballs to try to steer the room, to steer conversations in a favorable direction. And in fact, I'm kind of the other way where I like to work behind the scenes and mentor and encourage others to take credit even for my ideas. I much prefer to do that. And I find when things are other people's ideas, they commit and follow through better. And I think you get more traction doing it that way, kind of being a servant leader in that sense. So, but when I do speak, I tend to be more to the point and concise to achieve a specific goal. Otherwise, I tend to just kind of lay back and not be the loudest.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. So we've got a really good theme there of, leading by example, listening before you speak, and really coaching. So that's awesome. I like to see the similarities between the answers. So thank you, everyone. So the next question will be, can you share a moment when resilience shaped your path forward and what helped you build that inner strength over time? We'll start with you, Jamie.
Sure. A defining moment that shaped me came during a high-stakes healthcare IT integration project I was working on. I was working with a diverse group, physicians, executives, and multiple vendors, each bringing different and sometimes conflicting priorities. The pressure was pretty intense, and communication didn't always flow smoothly. What kept me grounded was staying focused on what mattered most, patient care and outcomes. I learned to adapt my communication style to each audience, relying on the facts and building trust through consistency and active listening. That experience helped me develop the inner strength to lead through uncertainty with clarity and confidence, something that I continue to use and shape how I face challenges today.
Awesome, Jamie. They're lucky to have you. My goodness. Let's go next to you, Nellie.
So my moment of resilience was actually when I had my second baby. I had to return back to work, and I learned that I had inherited 4 new team members all at the same time that I had to train overnight. I also discovered a massive house leak during that time. So that was a lot to take on. I was working very, very long days, trying to navigate, being a mother of 2 young kids, one of which being a newborn. And then, of course, dealing with the house leak, insurance companies, contractors relocating. So it was at that moment I actually discovered how truly strong I can be, and that we really could overcome any challenges, even when we think we can't make it. So it's just a matter of taking the issue and solving it like a puzzle piece.
Awesome. Yeah, sometimes when we shift our perspective a little bit, we realize not everything requires our immediate attention or is our emotional energy. So kind of bringing us back to center, what really matters, like you said, Jamie, like what is the patient care that really matters. And just that it kind of helps you ground yourself, give yourself the space to really reflect on what's going on and then just kind of approach it at a more calmer, focused mindset. So great answers. Thank you. Number 3, have you ever faced burnout while advancing your career? And what changes did you make to protect your well-being going forward? We'll start with Marianne on this one.
So burnout is part of the title of CEO. I think it comes with the territory. You know, it's so crazy because you work really hard, right? I've been in the channel for 25 years and you work really super hard. And you always think that you've reached a capacity of how hard you have to work until you sit in the CEO seat, right? And you have to build a business from the ground up. And then you realize, wow, I could definitely burn out fast. I think part of the challenge, and I think a lot of women suffer from it, right? You don't really have any downtime, right? So I think that's a really big issue, right? I'm on year 7, without really kind of a day off. So it's 7 years, 7 days straight, 7 years straight. So it's really hard, but you have a team of people that you have to manage this whole team of people. There's 55 people plus on the team, right? As a whole company, and you're managing the whole team from top to bottom. Having 16 direct reports and running the whole sales team and feeling like the world is on your shoulder. It's like day to day. It's really hard. So burnout's kind of, I think, part of the challenge, right? Being able to figure out how do you step back? How do you take a breather? I think most people will tell you, and I know it's true, right? If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. But that's a super hard piece to figure out. Like, how do you balance maintaining the business while trying to take care of yourself? But if you are burned, which I've gone through moments where I was, the short business trips kind of help. A couple of days in Arizona, a couple of days in San Antonio last week, kind of help balance you out because you're kind of by yourself. You're bored, but then you're like, wait a minute, there's nobody here to talk to me about me. So I think it's really hard to balance burnout. It always has been. It just gets harder as your career goes on, and the more pressure filled job that you have, and the higher up on the ladder you get. But it's really your job too, as a leader, to help recognize burnout in everybody below you or under you, right, on your team or within the organization, and kind of help coach them through. I think I do a much better job coaching somebody else through burnout than I do coaching myself, and trying to find female leaders that are somewhere on your level that you can kind of talk to. I give props to all the working moms in technology. I don't know how you do it. I've never had kids. I don't know what that would look like in my life, but I can't imagine being able to balance the two together because it's got to be super hard. But I think you have to somewhat take care of yourself to keep yourself stable in order to help others around you. Well, that was long-winded, but
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you, Marianne. Chrisanne, how about you?
Oh, Marianne, could we share war stories? Oh, could we ever? So my background is actually not originally from technology, and it was actually burnout that brought me to technology. So I owned an advertising agency that I built with a partner, that we built to 60 people large. And after 16-hour days, 7 days a week, and raising a family, because I had young children at the time, I had reached burnout, and I sold my part of the business to my partner, partly because not only was I burnt out after years of 7 day a week, and your business falls when you leave. And that's kind of part of the problem, is that you don't take time for yourself because of that. So I tried to retire, at least I thought I was 15 years ago, and that lasted 8 months, and I got bored. And then I came into the IT space for my second career. So I started, so from being a CEO where Marianne is and where I can relate, I started at the very bottom of IT, right from the bottom with, like, next to no responsibility to learn the ropes. So, and it was, in the beginning, it was quite the culture shift, when you go from kind of being at the top of your game to being at the very, very bottom of the ladder and kind of going. So there was definitely some moments when I said, what the heck was I thinking when I did that? Because it was a never ending drinking from the fire hose, different responsibility, because I started at the bottom. So I was able to unload some of that responsibility, but that, as I climbed the ladder, obviously that started to come back on. But so I've not, since being in IT, suffered burnout per se, and that's mainly because of the entrepreneurial background, that I'm not doing 16-hour days, 7 days a week now. So you end up having a threshold for stress and a different level of stress management. So I haven't suffered that, but there has been times where I've gone through extreme frustration, and I've had to take a day off for myself to reset my mind and have a day of personal self-care, which I recommend for everyone. Self-care and self-love is a very, very important thing to manage your stress and not suffer through burnout.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, there's actually a book I read by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, where they talk about the stress cycle, and they say after you've had a stressful event, your body's actually stay in that fight or flight mode, and to actually recover, you need to do something to break that cycle. So they recommend laughing or crying or doing some sort of creative expression or something to like signal to the body that it's safe to let go and you're done out of that stress cycle. So good for you, and a good tip for everybody out there. Like, you got to take care of yourself, right? So excellent. Okay. How has developing a personal brand impacted your career, and what advice would you give to women looking to showcase their strengths authentically? We'll start with you, Marianne.
So I think when we do our Women in Tech series, we had a whole series on personal brand and building your network. And I tell people that I think one of the best things I've ever done without knowing I was doing it was building a personal brand, right? I spent 20, 25 years in the channel as an inside sales rep. So I was sales support. So my role was basically vendor management, order processing, quoting, customer relations, vendor relations. And I built my personal brand around integrity, reliability, someone they can always go to when they needed something done, someone that cared about their needs and what they were looking for, kind of more than they were, or as much as they were. And I wasn't expecting one day to wake up in a CEO chair and needing that personal brand, because the personal brand is what built the business and what still sustains the business today, right? Because there's different parts of the business. So the personal brand piece is just so important. When you quit a job and the next day you wake up with no job, right? The first thing you lean on is you, right? And your cell phone and your contacts in your phone. So you literally just go through your phone and you just start calling people and explaining what you're trying to do. And I always said I never expected to need the channel the way I needed them, but because of my personal brand that I built, the channel paid me back tenfold and more than I would have expected and ever needed.
Oh, that warms my channel heart, Marianne. Thank you. Amazing. Awesome. We'll go to you next, Nellie.
So my advice would be to remain authentic, hardworking, and reliable. Ultimately, that builds trust, and over time helps you develop champions. I think it's through genuine relationships and community that you develop a great brand.
Awesome. Thank you. And Jamie, your turn.
Yeah, my answer is pretty similar to Nellie's. So, building a personal brand for me has been about consistently showing up with integrity, clarity, and purpose. I've learned it's not just what you say about yourself, but how others experience working with you. In IT consulting, where trust is key, being known for listening, clear communication, and staying focused on the why has helped me build strong relationships. And it's not just how you represent yourself, but it's the relationships you build throughout your career that help build your brand.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think, personal brand is not necessarily about self-promotion, but really showing up authentically. And I think that was a theme among all your answers. And when we demonstrate those, values and those strengths, we really create space for other people to find the right opportunities. And I think that's how we ultimately grow. So great answers. Okay, let's talk about imposter syndrome, very popular topic. So imposter syndrome affects many women in tech. Can you share a pivotal moment in your career when you had to push past self-doubt and to achieve success? We'll start with you, Jamie.
So, imposter syndrome was something I faced a lot early in my career, especially when leading that high profile project I spoke about earlier with experienced executives and medical staff. I doubted my ability to lead in such a high pressure environment, but I pushed past it by trusting my expertise, the value I brought, and that I was chosen for a reason. I stayed focused on the facts, communicated clearly, and leveraged my knowledge to drive the project's success. That experience taught me that imposter syndrome doesn't vanish overnight, but it can be overcome by trusting in your abilities and recognizing your place at the table. Building strong relationships with my team and stakeholders was a big part in overcoming my self doubt as well. By listening, valuing their input, and fostering trust, I gained the support which helped me succeed. Since then, I've learned that confidence comes not only through my personal growth, but also from the connections that I build and the team that surrounds me.
Great answer. Thank you, Jamie. Chrisanne, your turn.
Okay, well, my answer is going to be a little bit different because I don't really suffer from imposter syndrome in its traditional sense. So when I came into IT, I started at the very, very bottom and worked my way up from being a CEO of a company prior to. So it really has taken the mindset kind of, if they can do it, so can I, mindset. How hard can it be, sort of thing. And I just throw myself out there. I'm very open to learning and I'm willing to learn from my mistakes. And that's how I push through things. But I am the exact opposite of imposter syndrome in the sense that I don't celebrate my wins or think my credentials are any big deal. So I tend to I tend to internalize things. I downplay my achievements mainly because the driver of my achievements is really just I require mental stimulation and I constantly do things to stay mentally stimulated. And so when I, for example, go to write an exam with something, I've already written it off and gone next instead of celebrating that win. And in fact, my husband, who is also a geek, sometimes sits me down and forces me to smell the roses and reminds me of the things that I have achieved and tells me to stop downplaying them and give myself credit for the things that I've done that I tend to think are just no big deal. So I guess to me that would be the opposite of imposter syndrome, but I'm sure there are women that do that as well, that don't give themselves the credit where credit is due. And I think that just comes from being an entrepreneur.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's the imposter syndrome for me is, really recognizing, the value beyond the doubt, right? Like to really remember that you earned this place and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I think if I look at it from this angle, it's like, it's a sign that if you're uncomfortable and you're not sure, you're growing and you're stretching and you're just stretching that comfort zone and you're really trying to step into something new. So that's awesome. Thank you. So in closing, the closing question, if you could put one empowering message on a billboard for women in tech, what would it say? And so I will start. So mine would be the words I say quite often, be good to you. So I often say that to my friends and people around me, in a field of tech where we're constantly pushing boundaries, we're demanding innovation, sometimes challenging our confidence. It's a reminder that, your well-being is not a luxury. It's truly the foundation. So, prioritize rest, set boundaries, celebrate your wins, and don't wait for permission to take up space. The world needs you first, but first you need to take care of yourself. And again, it's one of those messages that I love to share with people, but I also need to listen to it myself. So for next, we'll go with Nellie. What would your billboard say?
My billboard would say we could do hard things. We can do hard things because I think it's important to always challenge yourself and I think that's what builds strength and confidence and helps us overcome imposter syndrome over time. Just approach, our careers and the world fearlessly.
Awesome. Love that. We can do hard things. Marianne, your turn.
So for me, I always tell my team that, again, building a brand, building your network, right? What is your legacy going to look like, right? And I always tell them that people will always remember, will never remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right? Because I think that that's what sticks with people the most, right? I say a whole lot of things no one remembers, but they do remember how I make them feel. And I think it's really important for, especially in the way the world turns out to be sometimes, all the things that are going on, right? I think it's really important to make people feel like you would want them to feel, like confident in you, and the help and support that you give people and the uplift that you give to other people. I think as a community, as people, we need to stick together and make them feel how you'd want people to make you feel. So that's a really important part of my whole pay it forward thought process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marianne. Chrisanne, how about you?
Well, I'm going to channel both Nike and Share at the same time. So just do it, but you can always look back and say, I shouldn't have done that. Oh well. So that's my billboard.
I love that. Two very different things, but all in one billboard. It's perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Jamie.
Yeah, so for my personal billboard or billboard to other women in technology, I would say be yourself and build the life and career that you love and be proud of it. I mean, today, we spoke a lot about, healthy balances, loving yourself, consistency, being authentic. And I think, the life and career that you build will lead to a meaningful impact to yourself, your family, and your coworkers. So celebrate you. It builds confidence, and I think it helps inspire others.
Wow. That's some amazing billboards, ladies. Thank you. I'm getting chills. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's panel. So I do want to take a moment to say my heartfelt congratulations and thank you to all the incredible panelists for sharing your experiences, your wisdom, and your insights. Your stories have not only inspired us, but reminded us the power of persistence, authenticity, and the importance of lifting others as we rise. To all of you here today that joined us, thank you so much for your time and for your engagement. And thank you for having me as your moderator. It's truly been a blessing and a career highlight for me. So thank you. Whether you're in the early stages of your career or you're a seasoned leader, you're contributing to this ongoing conversation where we're pushing boundaries of what's possible for women in tech. We've explored some really great topics today: owning our voices, overcoming imposter syndrome, navigating career growth with intention and clarity, and turning conversations into tangible action. But the lessons we've learned today don't end with this when this is done. Let's carry them into our conversations, into our communities, into our work, into our personal lives. Let's continue to show up, be good to ourselves, advocate for one another, and always remember that change doesn't come from waiting, it comes from doing. I hope you will join us for another SHEwolf Global Partner Network event in the future. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and visit us on our partner portal webpage for SHEwolf. Thank you again so much for being part of this powerful conversation. Let's continue to rise, collaborate, and make an impact together. Thank you.